probably immediately would be filling the potholes, because when you have this much snow, as you know, being a councilman, potholes ended up becoming the biggest thing that happens in the spring. So immediately we'll be getting those calls probably fairly quickly.
I've been on pothole duty already. I don't know about you.
And it is going to be tough. It is because of our financial strengths. It is going to be a tough year. It is one of those years that we're going to have to be looking more inward in seeing what we can do, and really gut-wrenching of how we can serve the people much better, and that our employees will go out and meet the expectations that the citizens want.
And as you mentioned that, and I think back, and I'm always comparing how things were when I was growing up compared to how they are today. There's always been winters in Illinois and Indiana where I grew up.
Right.
And I bet there's always been potholes.
Right.
But again, are our expectations today way unusual compared to what they were yesterday, 10 years ago, 20 years ago? I know the cost of filling them has certainly gone up in terms of the manpower needed, the wages that we pay people, even the cost of whatever materials that we put into those potholes have gone up. So in a sense, the world really hasn't changed, but our expectations in terms of how quickly we want something filled, or how costly it may be to do some things that years ago didn't impact budgets, but it's the same way with the family. It didn't cost as much to heat a house 20 years ago as it does today, or to buy groceries, or to buy gas. Everything has gone up, including the price of government. Yes, were you going to say?
No, you was going back to the good old days where you had three. Did you have three stations, or did you only have two? You may be able to get four, but you lived with that.
Oh, you were talking about like television?
Yes.
Oh yeah, right.
You
ABC,
lived with that.
CBS.
I didn't want to date you. I didn't say back to two stations or one station. I didn't know if you were.
And I found more to watch on those 3 or 4 than I do now with 60-some channels.
Exactly. So I think the point is, I mean, when we only had 4 stations, it was fine. Now that we have more, I don't know how many I even have, but more than I can watch, it seems like it's still not enough. I think that things have changed, the expectations change, and as you grow into those expectations, you become comfortable in having what you have. And I think that's the rude awakening that's taken place, and we have to deal with the budget in changing the expectations of folks. So it's a reality that has come to fruition in this hour that we have to deal with.
And it kind of leads to the debate about big government or little government. Supposedly, philosophically, we want little government, but you can't have little government when you have big expectations. When you want them to be involved in every neighborhood squabble, you need to have somebody to do the code enforcement for the house across the street whose grass doesn't need cutting. Whereas years ago, you either went and knocked on the door and told them to cut it, or you'd have your son go over there and get Miss Johnson's yard or that type of thing. So, we're kind of at the crossroads here in Peoria as well as nationally, as best as I can see it.
And I think that was one of the things that came out of the mayor's speech. I don't know if people were able to pick it up. The mayor and I have been meeting with Southside Mission and the core of volunteers that have been doing just what you just described. People going out and just helping people overcome obstacles that currently exist. That's something that we used to do, but we don't do it so much now. So what we're trying to do with the budget constraints and seeing that we can't pay for everything, seeing how we could do more with less, and being able to do that was accomplished by people volunteering. And basically, your slogan here is like people helping people. So that was in the mayor's address. He pointed that out and asked people to sign up to be a part of building this community. That was something that I totally agreed with, and think that it's not going to solve our budget problems, but it's going to help our community as a whole as we work to overcome small problems that currently exist in a way that's more cost efficient.
Well, in my mind, it will help our budget problems in the sense that when we can volunteer and become accountable and responsible for things that end up being taken care of by government,
Right.
it is going to be expensive. I think in your district, don't you have where the black churches or somebody's come together with Adopt a Block or something?
Right,
where
that is the
people-
Southside mission. It's not
Okay.
just the black churches.
Okay, all
There are
right.
churches from all across this
Great.
this region that
All right.
have come together.
Mhm.
But I guess when I was speaking to the budget, we don't spend that much money as it relates to the total budget
Right.
to mow folks' lawns, roof repair. I mean, that's CBDG, 2.5 million.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that's not a lot of money in relationship to the entire budget. Now, if we can put together a volunteer force and we can eliminate the entire police department, of course I'm not suggesting that, I know it's not going to happen, but that would be a major impact if we could do something of that nature. And I guess, you know, some of the things we're going to do is going to help some of the small concerns. Again, that CBDG roof program, the HIP program, you know, those are small amounts of money as it relates
Right.
to the total budget. The big items is police and fire and public works. And when we can do some things that help reduce the costs in those areas, then we really have impacted the budget.
And again, that goes back to personal accountability and responsibility. We're now asking police to be responsible for overlooking and taking care of what I call behavioral problems, whether they're kids standing on street corners, and the best way to deal with that is tell your kid don't be out on that street
Right.
corner. Or things of that type. Loud music in our cars. We shouldn't have to have somebody to take your car away or give you a ticket. I mean, that ought to be some things that affect society but can be controlled by us all individually. In fact, I would hope that the vision would be that individuals would see themselves as city employees who are not paid but just citizens. It's tough to even get people to go out and vote. That takes no more than 10 minutes. But we need citizens to be involved in our community 24 hours a day, 365. Not just on the first Saturday neighborhood cleanup, but every day.
Right.
If you see trash, pick it up. Or pay a kid 50 cents a bag for picking it up, so that they're learning how to earn money and they're contributing to the community. Bill, anything else that you want to add on our discussion? I know that pretty soon we'll be wrapping it up here. But,
No, I feel like I'm getting lectured by my dad again.
Yes, sir. We'll do that, sir. Yes.
Yeah, no, you are right. I mean, it is personal responsibility. It is a community that we live in. It's not about government. Government is really supposed to be the one that does things that people don't want to do. But really, it becomes, what kind of community do you want to live in? And we should want to live in a community that everybody feels like they've been treated fairly. And that's really what we should live in.
Yeah, we need to take pride in Peoria, and we need to see to it that Peoria lives up to being what has been called several times an all-American city. We need to inspire people to be all they can be, and people ought to feel that they have a real opportunity based upon their skills, their knowledge, and their interests to reach their full potential as a Peoria city. And if all of those things come together, in a sense, the government is kind of like the thing we call church. We go to on Sunday, but we should be a Christian all the time. But that should not just be the only time you're a Christian or the only place of where we get Christianity. But government ought to be there as kind of an emergency situation to do things that we as citizens can't do individually. But as I said, our costs are going up, our resources are going down, and there's some real challenges.
I mean, I saw it just this week with the snowstorm. I mean, there was a lot of neighbors helping each of the neighbors out,
Right.
plowing their driveways, or helping making sure that this neighbor who doesn't have the ability to shovel the snow was out shoveling their snow. And so it was very interesting to watch, to see how people helped each other out in their neighborhoods.
Well, gentlemen, I have certainly enjoyed your input, your reactions, and your thoughts on a very important topic, and that is the state of Peoria. And I want to compliment the two of you for dedicating your lives as a council person. Having been there for 4 years, I can't imagine the kinds of years you gentlemen are talking about. but I applaud you for the courage it takes to run, but even more important, after you run. That's when the real rubber hits the road.
Exactly.
And I want to invite the two of you to come back anytime that you feel there's something either regarding the city as a whole or your district in particular. And I will be glad to have you to come and share that information. Well, for those of you who've watched tonight, I hope you have enjoyed hearing our mayor talk about his perspective and what he feels the issues and challenges are, as well as our council people that are here, Bill Spears and Clyde Gulley. Again, the purpose of my show is to educate you, to motivate you, to participate. Each of you in your own way can be a council person. See to it that your home first, your yard first, and your neighborhood are in good stead. And before you know it, our community will be a beautiful community and will be demonstrative of what we feel is a beautiful community for others to come to and for many to stay in rather than leaving, going to other places. This is Andre Bohannon saying thank you again for supporting Captions after all of these decades. And I promise you next week we'll have an interesting show. Thank you and good night.